Okay, better. Hopefully we're hearing me now. Okay, sorry about that little technical hitch there. So I did say hello, welcome to Tuesday Night Track TNT. For some reason my microphone decided not to work. So better late than never. We've got 2 minutes to start. This is TNT, Tuesday Night Track Omnium. It's on every week, and what we do is we have 4 races, a mix of races from week to week. Sometimes. Usually some sort of scratch race, there's usually some sort of TT race, some sprints, some elimination races, or devils, as we call them here in the UK, and types of events. In fact, overall, I've got about 13 types of events using various combinations of RGT's race parameters. So this first one is one that, well, I didn't invent in real life, but I think I claim to have invented it online. It's tempo race. So a tempo is a real life race. It's used in the Olympic Omnium. It's often used too down at Track League. And in the tempo race, the riders score points. So in a normal, if you've ever seen a points race in track, the first 4 riders, every 3-4 laps, whatever the points are, the riders score the first 4 across. So it's 5, 3, 2, 1. In a tempo race, on a sprint lap, only the first rider scores. So what can happen is if somebody's out in front, the riders behind don't chase, because if you put in all the effort to chase down the rider in front, all that's going to happen is somebody sits on your wheel, and as you get to the line, they go past you and they get the point. You get nothing. You can do all that work and get nothing. The worst thing is if you're in a small group, and sometimes they work it out amongst themselves and share it out, and sometimes they just, again, take it for themselves. So in this one, we're using the elimination format, but riders score points by initiating an elimination lap. The order of exit doesn't matter. I will adjust the points afterwards to see that they are in the right order. We only use the elimination order when there are riders tied on points, or if there aren't, if riders don't have any points. So there we go. We've got a small field tonight. I'm not sure why. Maybe something else is on, because the last few weeks we've been having decent sort of sized fields, building up again after summer. But for some reason tonight, not that many riders. So if we had more riders, I would have done this to a maximum of 20 laps. So awarded points for the first 20 laps, and then if there were more riders, I would have asked them to stop, or just let them keep going and only score the first 20. In this case, we're not going to get to 20 laps. In fact, we're only going to have 5 or 6 laps by the time we get to the final 3. So we've got 1 neutral lap. So there we are, the elimination lap initiated by Matt Hammond. Matt's a clubmate of mine at Dulwich Paragon, so good to see him down and riding. So I need to make a note of this, because I have to adjust this afterwards in rgtdp.com, which is a wonderful system which enables me to do this. So 1 point for Matt, first lap. And we've got Matt and Paul Watmer out in front. And I'm not sure why that's the ZMS camera, of course, sorry. See, Matt did it then. Paul was just in front and Matt rolled him on the line and just got over and took that point. He's going to eliminate the ZMS camera there. So Matt now has what chasing him, but seems to be a little bit behind, and that is really the worst place to be in the tempo race, because you're just not going to get anything there. You can see Matt ahead of him, but Matt's going to continue to take those points, and Paul just won't get anything other than he will. So, Matt, nation, the internet problems here. I can't really see what sort of. I saw Damon had put the power up, but it wasn't showing for me. So you will have seen the power that Paul was putting up, trying to chase Matt. And Paul is a very strong rider. But Matt's a very strong rider. I know it because I try to sit on these wheels and various this with a great deal of success. So Matt's going to take another lap here. He's all And sometimes what can happen in the tempo, if you say point or 2 points to, sometimes if you're then back in the bunch, you just think, fine, I'm ready to go. It's to let a rider soak up all the points, because if you've got 2 and they've got 5 or 10, it doesn't matter. You're going to get second place. Apologies, I'm getting messages that some of the I might be having some internet issues at home, so apologies. Racing. So they're Matt initiating the final lap in the elimination. It goes down to the 3 and the final 3 places. And Matt there crossing the line to initiate the final lap. Paul's going to take and we'll shortly see who comes in 3rd place. So we'll finish when we matches the line. Coming up now, he's coming up to cross the line now. I should have added Magic Road is the Herne Hill Velodrome. You can see the line there. It's not really Brixton, but anyway. So Matt's won the race there. He takes the final. Second. So that's pretty clear about the points. In 3rd spot, Anna, a very strong finish rider, although she was just saying in the chat earlier that she's coming back from an injury. Wayne Hornby there in 4th place, and Greasley, I'm not sure what his first name is, but he is in 5th place. And that's all we had starting for tonight. So yeah, I'm afraid it's a very quiet week. Not sure what's going on there. Maybe there's something else on that, because normally we get a few of the Danes come and ride with us. We've got a bit of a series of regulars: Jared Miller, Jason Strether, a few others who normally come down and ride Tuesday night, but obviously not this week, I'm afraid. So we shall do with what we have. Race is always as hard as you make it. So I'm just going to check the points here. And I'm just going to check the names actually. William Hornby, sorry, not Wayne Hornby, and Greg Greasley. So those are our 5 riders there for the tempo race. So I need to jump out of that and pop over to the second race. Okay, the second race is a dash. We're going to have a little bit of time to wait because I actually left. I sort of banked on having about 20 riders, which is what we've been having the last few weeks. So I had banked on that first race taking about 10 to 12 minutes, 20 laps at about 40 seconds, maybe a few eliminated, but it's finished quite quickly. So we have 12 minutes now until the second race, which is the dash. So I'm just going to join that race. So I can to them and give them a briefing. So yeah, as I was saying before we left that tempo race, it was modelled on Herne Hill Velodrome, sorry, I'm just getting slightly distracted here. Okay, yeah, sorry, just dealing with some messages here. Let's see. Okay, sorry, slightly distracted there. Just trying to sort out whether we can work out what these technical issues are. Something to do with my internet connection, I guess. Although weirdly, as I was just chatting with Damon, I'm also looking at RGT on a different computer on my big screen. It's because I'm actually in the race, so I can chat to the riders. And that connection is absolutely fine, but the connection that I'm using to get in to do the commentary seems to be coming and going a bit. Probably because my son has just gone downstairs and is probably getting on the computer and starting to play games or something. Although it still doesn't explain why one's fine and one's not. Anyway, mystery to me. Yeah, so anyway, as I was saying, before we left the temper race, the course that I was using there was is one of the magic roads, one of the permanent magic roads in RGT. And it is modelled on Herne Hill Velodrome. So when RGT last year, it was just about Christmas last year, brought out the new parameters, race parameters, and things like elimination race. They also put in a velodrome circuit, and the one that they used was Herne Hill Velodrome, which is absolutely great for me because that is my local velodrome. That's where I race and ride. In fact, tomorrow morning I'll be doing a training session at Herne Velodrome. Herne Hill Velodrome is in South London, hence the sign next to it saying Brixton. If any of you know London, Brixton is one of the better known areas of South London. It's actually at Herne Hill, which is, I guess, not far from Brixton, but it's not exactly in Brixton. Dulwich is actually a very, very nice suburb. Some very expensive houses there, also some very good schools. Dulwich College is there, one of the big private school. One of the alumni is Nigel Farage, actually, but they don't mention that too much. But also, it was a gift of a man named Edward Alleyne, who was actually in Elizabethan times, so 16th century, an actor, and Dulwich at that time was way outside of London, and he got quite wealthy and had a big estate around Dulwich, and he gifted the Dulwich estate, some of it to charity. So there's a Dulwich Estate Trust, so it's actually all land is owned by what's called the Dulwich Estate, which has taken over from, was gifted it by Edward Alleyne, as well as a charitable foundation, the Whitgift Foundation, sorry, not Whitgift Foundation, that's a different one. But there is a charitable foundation, and that still does a lot of charitable work. Also not runs now, but owns the land where the schools are, Dulwich College, Alleyne, also Edwin, James Alleyne's girls' school. So they're all in Dulwich. So Dulwich itself is a very nice place. That's my point there. Where Herne Hill Velodrome is. Herne Hill Velodrome is also owned by the Dulwich Estate. And it was built for the 1948 Olympics, which were the first Olympics after the Second World War, and they were held in London. And Herne Hill Velodrome, actually, sorry, it wasn't built for that. What am I saying? They'll kill me tomorrow. It was built actually in 1891, so it's actually the 130th year of Velodrome. It's one of the older velodromes. It was used for the 1948 Olympics, and is, I believe, the surviving Olympic venue from that 1948 Olympics. And in fact, there's a connection to, not in this race, but the next race, the TT Devil, which will be done on a magic road of Helsinki Velodrome. And Helsinki Velodrome, that was built, that's why I'm getting confused, it's built for the original Helsinki Olympics, which was to be held in 1940. And for obvious reasons, that didn't happen. But the Helsinki Olympics happened after London. So there's a direct connection there. Maybe I should try to do one for Melbourne. That was 1956, and Rome was 1960. Maybe one day I'll do a TNT with 4 races, successive Olympic velodromes. That's one for. I'll have to get someone to help me with the magic roads. I'm okay at magic roads, but I'm not so great at it. Other people are much better than me at magic roads. This one that we're on tonight on race 2 here, which is a dash, is Milton Keynes Bowl. Milton Keynes is a city outside of London. It's actually a fairly, what they call in England, a new town. It was, I think, largely, I mean, obviously there was something there before, but it was developed more after the Second World War in the 1950s and 60s. As a very planned town. If you're familiar with English towns and cities, they're often very unplanned because they're very old, and streets and things tend to go all over the place. Milton Keynes was built as a new city, along with some others like Welwyn Garden City. So it's, a lot of people in England don't like it because it just feels very unfamiliar to them, being sort of on a pattern of how things work. But they actually have very good things like good cycling infrastructure, good green spaces. One of the things they have at Milton Keynes is Milton Keynes Bowl, which is an entertainment venue. It's often used for concerts, whether that's bands or and sometimes festivals. And there is a cycle circuit around it, which is about 1.2 kilometres. And it's often used for crit racing, circuit racing, by some of the clubs and organisers outside of London. So if I remember correctly, I'm not sure if this was a Paul Nicholls Magic Road, or it might have been, I'm not sure if it was Paul or Samir or Steve Taylor. I'm a bit of a magpie when it comes to Magic Roads, and I tend to use whichever ones I can find and whichever ones take my fancy. Anyway, we're using Milton Keynes Bowl as the venue for this race, and it's just a dash. Sometimes this is used in, it's not an Olympic event, but it's often used in track league and other track racing. A dash might be usually on a track, like a 400-metre track like Herne Hill or so on. It'll be a 3-lap dash. What tends to happen is there'll be only a small group of riders who do the dash, maybe 3, maybe 5, depending on whether it's a final. And there's different ways to approach it. The classic way, the traditional way, is the riders tend to sort of mark each other on the first lap. Somebody might try to, wind it up in the second lap, and then by the time you get to the third lap, it becomes a sprint to the finish. But sometimes you can really get you can be very cheeky and just go all out from the start. And if the riders that you're against aren't ready for it, they might, not be ready at the start. If maybe one other rider joins you, so it becomes sort of 2 against 3, and there's a gap, then if you've got 2 strong riders out in front, they can perhaps they can keep away. So there we go. Race 2 dash, very short, critical. I think that's me. That's a typo, a spell check or autocorrect error. That should be crit, not critical. So it's effectively a very short crit or criterium race. 1 lap, 1.2 kilometres. The draft is on. So what I'm expecting here is for the riders to stay together, surf the wheels, and there'll be a big sprint for the line. And I see on the lineup now that Rasmus Feldal has joined us. Rasmus is a very strong Danish rider. He's one of the regulars. Apart from that, we've still got William Hornby, Greg Greasley, Paul is back again, Anna, and Matt. So cast from the first race, plus Rasmus. So let me just give them a quick briefing and make sure they know what's happening. Here we go. Sorry, long wait. Race 2. Why is it not using my keyboard? That's very annoying. I just need to tell them what's happening. I did have keyboard shortcuts set up, but they aren't working. So now I need to make sure they know what's happening. Draft is on. 1 lap and 1.2 kilometers. That should be fine for them. So, yeah, they'll know what's happening. And most of these guys have done it all before. So tempo is the tempo I really need because it's a bit unusual, but the dash, well, let's just get ready and go. So what we should be seeing now, we've got about 10 seconds left. We'll see some of them starting to go. I see Greg there going into the orange. Paul needs to wind his power to be a fast start, and away they go. Oh, who's missed the start? Oh no, that's the count. Fine, they're all together. Wow, Rasmus has got a very fast start. Matt's chasing him down. Anna is on Matt's wheel, but we've already got gaps. Rasmus has got a 50-meter gap out front. It's about ahead of Matt. William Hornby there coming way past Anna. So William moves up into third place. This is going to be over quickly. I think it's only 15 meters back to Matt. Matt on Rasmus. It's going to be a very tight finish. We're only halfway through, and Matt's already on Rasmus's wheel. So if Matt can just catch him, get in the draft of Rasmus, he'll be well placed to go past him at the end. And William Hornby with Anna on William's wheel coming up behind them. So well done, Anna, for surfing that. He's off the pace there. Paul Watmer is also up there with, oh no, that was Paul on William's wheel. Sorry, I saw another wheel and I thought it was Anna. So Rasmus, 150 meters to go. He's kept that bit of a gap. Matt hasn't been able to get into his draft, and I see Matt dropping back into yellow, so I don't think Matt's going to catch Rasmus. Rasmus put in another big dig. He's doing, there we go, 5-6 watts per kilo. He's putting in a big dig to make sure that he gets to the line first. Note him 30 meters left, going across the line here. But that was fast and furious, and Matt did a pretty good effort there, so Matt is safe in second place. So Paul now has to make sure of third. He's got William, in red behind him, but Paul also putting in a big dig to secure William Hornby there, crossing in fourth, only just ahead of Anna and Greg Greasley in sixth place. So that was, definitely fast, furious, and well done. If you can surf the wheels to make sure that you you get in line with the sprint, and then you've got a chance to try and go past at the end. So that's our dash over, and it really was a dash. It lived up to its name. Sometimes when I do the dash, I call it a random dash, and I do them in a staggered start, and they go off in groups together. So I think looked like we're going to get results there feeding into the graphics. They should arrive. There we go, very soon. So Rasmus there, 1.3. Wow, average is 7.8 watts per kilo. Matt Hammond there in 128. So he eased off a bit at the end there, about 5 seconds behind, 6.7 watts per kilo. That's pretty good for a minute and a half to be doing 6-7 watts per kilo. That's pretty good effort. Paul Watmer there, 5.3 watts. William Hornby, 5.2 watts per kilo, a few seconds behind. Anna there, 143, 4 watts per kilo, and Greg, 150, 3.6 watts per kilo. So that's our field in the dash, and our next race is pretty quick actually. Well, that's a good thing about the dash, because it's not going to take very long. And so I can schedule the next race very quickly. So this next race is another slightly unusual one, and I'm just going to join it and make sure I give them a bit of a briefing. Where are we? It's taking a while to load, getting ready, just joining the race. So this is what I'm calling, this is another one that I will claim to have invented. It's a TT Devil. So like I said, devil is the word that we use for in England for or the UK for an elimination race. It comes from the phrase "devil take the hindmost." But I realised when I was setting up elimination races that RGT gave you the option of having draft on or off in an elimination race, and so I thought, well, if you can take the draft off, you've basically got a devil, but it basically becomes a TT because they can't draft off each other. So I'm just going to give them a quick briefing since my keyboard shortcuts are not working. So I'm just going to draft is off, but it's an elimination race. So they've got to time it. So often what you see in the TTs is that riders go out, some riders go out very, they put in too much effort early on in the race, and others are very good at measuring out their power, and they know the distance, they know that it's going to be, 5-6 kilometers, whatever has been programmed, and they measure out the power that they know they can sustain for the 10-12 minutes that it's going to take. In the TT Devil, obviously, you still don't want to go out too fast, but if you don't go out fast enough, you run the risk of being eliminated. So in this one, I'm trying to remember what actually I set for here. I better. It is one rider out per lap. Yeah, so it'll be one rider. I better tell them that. One rider out per lap. So you've got to make sure that if you are sort of behind someone, a few meters behind someone, sometimes what we see in the TTs is people make a big effort in the last sort of kilometre or so. They won't be able to do this because if you get eliminated, you're no longer there to make that effort. So they're going to have to keep the power. Unfortunately, with, who have we got online now? So we've got Anna, we've got Jimmy Trevor, Paul Watmer, Craig Greasley's back, RT, I'm not sure who that is. So it looks like Matt Hammond's here, so it looks like we've got a few more riders joining now, some regular names. We've got about 30 seconds to the start now. So they will need to keep the power on, but make sure they're not eliminated. And as always with an elimination race, it will go down to the final 3. So 20 seconds now until they start the TT. But of course, the difference here with the TT is they don't know how long it is. I mean, they'll have some ideas. They can judge by the number of riders. But unlike a fixed TT, which has a definite distance, this one doesn't, and they have to go with whatever's happening in this. So they'll be a bit dynamic in the race. So the first lap is a positioning lap. Nobody gets eliminated on that lap, but after that it gets one rider out. They get the information on screen there. So it looks like we have Rasmus, I think, is out ahead. We've got Matt Hammond in second place. We've got RT. Is that a Russian flag, I think? We've got Paul Watmer, so everybody's staying pretty close together. Jimmy Trevor now into 4th. Anna is in, and Greg Greasley there, back behind. He's already dropped quite a few meters, about 100 meter leaders there. So 100 meters behind, 200 meters behind the leader. He's going to be eliminated. And there's me and the camera have been eliminated, but I think Greg is also. So don't forget, in an elimination race, lapped riders are also eliminated. So if Raz really kicks off, he's probably going to catch some of the riders from behind. So let me just jump into this actually, so that I can see where everybody is. So we've got Anna. So Greg is still in the race, but I suspect he'll be out on the next lap. What's happening up the front? So we've got Rasmus taking a big lead there. So Paul Watmer, you can see he's got Matt in his sights. Paul putting in a bit of an effort there. RT has fallen a little bit off the pace there behind Paul, and Anna is coming up. See, clever. Anna is very good at the Devil. Not always a great TT rider, but very good at the Devil races. But she's a very strong rider, and she's done a very good job there, moving up ahead of RT, so that she makes sure that she's not the one eliminated. She stays in the race for a bit longer. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to make that much difference to her, because it's unlikely that she's going to cross that gap up to Paul in 4th. But well done. is across the 4 events. It's your lowest score, so the best places across the 4 events. So every position counts. So for Anna to come 5th rather than 6th means that she scores 5 points in this race, and you add them up. So if you scored, say, 3, if you were 3rd, 7th, 5th, 2nd, then you would score 3, 7, 5, 2. So your total score would be 17 across the whole 4 events. So Rasmus Feldal initiating an elimination lap there. Because you see the elimination times, but not the distances here. So I'm not sure quite how far he is ahead of the others. Anna, I think, is eliminated. Yep, so she's eliminated on that lap. You don't get eliminated until you cross the line, even though it's obvious that you're behind. So it's still within sight of Rasmus. I think that's up. So this is the final lap. So that's the difficulty when you get down to final 3 riders. So Jimmy there, I think Paul must have just jumped past Jimmy on that lap, because I'm pretty sure when we looked before, Jimmy was in 3rd place. I've done a very crafty move there by jumping past Jimmy, making sure that he goes into the final lap. So that's how it looks like we'll finish. We'll have Rasmus will cross the line now, and he will take victory in the TT Devil. Matt not far behind him, and Paul Watmer there safe in minutes ahead of Jimmy, Anna, RT, and Greg Greasley there. So Paul, no reason to go any faster. Take your time, Paul. Why not? I mean, he's safe in 3rd place. There's nobody can overtake him. The time doesn't matter. It's in the Omnium, so he might as well rest his legs ahead of the final race. So, oh wow, you've got 15 minutes now until the next race. What am I going to talk about for 15 minutes? Yeah, though again, that was because I thought that we would have more laps. This is always the difficulty with programming these events, and because we've been stable the last few weeks, I was sort of counting on having 20, maybe 25 riders in the race, and I programmed the timing for that. It hasn't worked out. I mean, often what I really should do is program things like the elimination races and ones that can be variable as the last race. But because it's been pretty stable, I thought I'd take a risk, and obviously that wasn't a very good thing to do. So I've come a cropper there, which also means that it's a bit annoying for the riders, because they then have to sit around and wait 14 minutes, 15 minutes. I mean, actually, if you're doing real life track events, that's not unusual, because what often happens at Track League is you'll have A, B, C category times, or at least A and B. And so while they are racing, one group is off, they finish their race, so they're off, either could just getting a breather, and go on, and first group then go and warm up, usually on an inner track or on rollers, if they have rollers inside the track at an indoor velodrome, and then they come on. So it's not unusual to have a sort of 15-20 minute gap between races, but of course in real life that's done to allow different groups to use the track, which is not an issue that we have online. Excuse me. So this, now we'll probably cover it again. This is a scratch race. So scratch in track parlance, track terminology, scratch just means there's nothing fancy about it. It's a race to the finish. In RGT, draft is on, and it's first to the line wins. But normally in a real life scratch race, you get, especially if you're doing an Omnium or you're doing Track League, the first 6 riders across the line will get points. It depends on the league, whether that's 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or sometimes it varies. You get more for crossing the line, like 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 3, so on. So so in points race in the line, it goes 5, 3, 2, 1. So you get extra points for crossing the line. Also in a points race, quite often, or standard in the points race, you get doubles for the final lap. So sometimes, especially if it's a short points race, people sit around, don't worry about the intermediate sprints, and go for it in the final because it's two separate laps. So we're lining up on a race. So this said it's a simple scratch, but a crazy course. This definitely was Steve Taylor. Steve Taylor is one of the artists who does quite a few magic roads, and Steve has a bit of a specialty. So Paul Nichols tends to do more real roads, or they're based on real roads. Tends to do roads that are based on life courses, such as the Velodrome. He's done a whole series of crit courses that I've used in previous weeks, things like Hog Hill in London, York Cycle Circuit, Ennerdale Cycle Circuit, to 1 kilometre to 1 to 1.5 kilometre circuits that are used for. He also did Preston Park, which is the 600-metre track near Brighton that I sometimes use. I think Paul lives down that way. But Steve tends to do, as with Samir, tends to do magic roads that are sort of what are called fantasy magic roads. They are based on GPX tracks and something that have a real life location. They have to have somewhere. But they can effectively be anywhere, and that means they can be any sort of design. This one is called Clapham Junction. Clapham Junction, for those who know it, is I'm not sure if it still is, certainly at one point it was the busiest rail station in Europe. It's a train station to the south of London, but it's sort of the point where all the train lines that are coming into the main train stations in central London sort of come through Clapham Junction. So whether you're going to the southeast or the southwest, anywhere going west or north, you go a different way. But anywhere to the south is a very populous and busy part of the UK. It goes through Clapham Junction. So there's a huge number of lines that sort of join together and go through Clapham Junction. It's a handy place to catch trains if you're heading to the south coast or to the southwest or to the southeast even. It's extremely busy. So Steve, I think, was inspired by this and has made a magic road that sort of loops and loops and loops. So I think each lap is about it's probably on the board there, 2.7 kilometres. So we're going to be doing 4 laps, so slightly longer than the usual crit race, but they loop around. So each lap, I think, has about 6 loops, like an octopus. 8 loops if it was an octopus. It has lots of loops. And one of the reasons, actually, I'm really disappointed that we don't have more riders, because I haven't used this circuit a lot. And one of the reasons that I've not used it much over summer is that where this circuit really is fun and crazy is if you had lots of people and different groups. You'll see what I mean when we start riding. But if you had lots of people groups, they would all be crisscrossing, and you'd get this amazing effect where you had riders sort of running into one another as they crossed paths. In the middle of the octopus, if you can imagine that. So I was hoping that we'd have, maybe 20, 30 riders tonight. The groups would split up a bit, and we'd see lots. You really see what you can do with magic roads. Magic roads can often be fun. Let's say Steve and Samir, a few others often do these sort of amazing geometric magic roads that follow patterns, a bit like Strava. I really wanted to show off that effect tonight. So a bit of a shame there that we don't have more riders that you'll be able to see how it works and see them crossing over one another. When I ride on RGT, I ride on rollers. I have smart rollers, so rollers that have a power meter in them, but still rollers. So if you know rollers, they're just like canisters, and you have both wheels on the bike. It's not like a trainer like a Wahoo or tax trainer where you take the wheel off and put it directly onto the cassette. You just plonk your bike on the rollers, and you have to balance. And it can be quite tricky, especially when you first start a ride or when you first start using rollers. If you look up on YouTube, you'll see plenty of funny videos of people falling off on rollers. And of course, the bike the wheels are rolling. So if you come off the rollers and the wheels are still rolling, you shoot across the living room into the coffee table or the dog or whatever it happens to be. Hilarious videos there. But I haven't had quite such a bad experience. I mean, I do have a handy shelf next to me so that if I lose my balance, I can. But what I find when I ride RGT, because it is so realistic and just your mind is tricked by watching the curves, you start to lean. And of course, when you start to lean and you're on rollers, sometimes you can go a bit close to the edge of the rollers, or you can, sometimes come off or hit the side. So I have to be really careful when I do course. Like if I'm doing a course like, if you're familiar with the Cap Fermento RGT course, which has some sort of twisty downhill section, I can't look when I go into those corners because your mind just makes you lean. I have to look away from the screen when I go into those corners, otherwise I'm going to end up coming off my which is not good. I don't really want to shoot forward and go into my 50-inch TV screen with my bike. That would be a difficult one to explain to the insurance company. So yeah, I have to look away. So this is not one that I would want to do on rollers. So we have a few people joining in here. So some extra riders joining here. So that's good. So maybe we'll get a little bit of a look at how it works. So I'm just going to send a message to them to tell them what's happening. So race 4, scratch, draft is on, and first to the line. 4 laps, but the circuit is very loopy. So they know what's happening in the race there. So we've got another 4 minutes there. I've managed to fill in the time there. Yes, the other thing I was going to say, so I was talking before about Helsinki Velodrome. So it was built originally in 1940 Olympics, but obviously because of the outbreak of the Second World War, the Olympics didn't happen but in Helsinki in 1940, but they did happen in Helsinki in 1952. So they were used in 1952, and today the velodrome is still used for cycling events, as is Herne Hill Velodrome. And I believe, thanks to Wikipedia, that it's also the home a couple of American football teams in Finland. I had no idea that they had American football teams in Finland, but they do. And indeed, there are two teams in Helsinki. So yeah, just ahead of this race, so you're obviously joining us on ZMS, who do a huge amount of streaming, and things are starting to get busy over the next few months. We've got a lot of events coming up on RGT, and I know the RGT guys too are keen to promote a few events. There's some big things coming up. So as it says there, ZMS live stream, full coverage of virtual and real life cycling races. They have a Facebook page, Instagram, so you can follow there, and Damon is very good at posting up details of what's up, of the events, commentated by people like me and other riders. So some that are coming up, there's the West London VR races. That's every other Wednesday, streamed every other Wednesday. So that's a race series based on courses in West London. Tour de Suisse is a big event coming up, starting November 1st, 10 stages. And I'm not sure if it's every day, but it's 10 stages based on obviously Swiss courses. So quite a few hills and mountains to cover in the Swiss. And there you go. If you think you've got it, if you think you can do better than you can, contact Damon there, and he's looking for people to commentate. And Echelon Racing League is the other, probably the biggest event, starting November 13th, probably the biggest event on T. It's an American-based series, but has very high level riders. It has history, but also has some pro level riding and teams in the event, and is backed by Echelon Racing, who are I believe a real life race organizer in the US. So it's a big event. It was on last year. I know Damon and ZMS had full coverage of Echelon, and it's really good. I mean, it's really good racing, some really good courses. They have commentators who know the riders doing the commentary, so it's worth catching some of that, or joining in some of the community events. I think it might be a way to get entry to some of the events, but don't quote me on that. Somebody else can tell you if that's right or not. So we're coming in now to the last few minutes, and I'm going to choose to follow somebody. So we've got a few riders here. So Bray, Cruz from Spain, Hornby's still with us, Paul Watman's still with us, Matt's still with us, Anna is still with us, Jimmy Trevor's still with us. So we've got a few riders who've joined in, so that's good. We'll a few extra doing the race. I need to choose somebody to follow. I'm trying to get my screen so I can follow Matt, and then I have another view of the action as well as the one that's on screen here. There's Anna, been Marion, and Osensi. So a few. Here we go. We're off now. So we'll follow Paul. Sorry, I missed the start there because I was trying to find a rider to pull my screen. So Paul, we're on Paul here, and Paul's away in the front bunch. So that's good. A few people may have missed. So Paul, not hugely. So it's a good start. It's a sensible start. He's doing about 300 watts to stay in that bunch. So not a mad start. At sort of 6-7 watts per kilo. So that bunch should stay together nicely. If those riders just at the back in 10-11 can catch up. So that's Guimarães, Portuguese rider. And Greasley and Cruz. Cruz, I think, has missed the start there, so he's quite off the back. So coming up to this first little rise here, Matt Hammond is going to rise. So it is a bit of a sharp gradient. Gets up to 9-10% each time, so it's a bit of a kick, and that's going to sort out the riders. But as you can see there, the road is sort of crossing over and under, and they'll be going over and under each other. So we whittle it down already to a first bunch of about 5 or 6 riders. Anna and Lindsay have. There you can see look at all those roads. That's what I mean about it being a crazy thing. You see all those roads looping over and under on top of one another. So we're going to be going up and down that continually and crossing over at central points. So yeah, I mean, imagine this: if you had 50, 60 riders, you'd be seeing riders where it would be mad as a box of frogs. Probably the closest thing you get to something like a man, which is a crazy track race to watch with riders everywhere. After you watch it for a while, you're used to it. So Matt there pulling out a bit of a lead. Got a long hill there. He's just managed to get away as we went over the hill. And if you can get, just a couple of seconds as you go over one of the rises, you can stretch that out as you go on the other side. It's always harder to catch somebody on the downhill. That's true in RGT as it is in real life, because you just can't make up so much distance, whereas on the climbs is will be able to catch people. So Matt now seems to be keeping a bit of a lead. There's a decent bunch behind him. So we've got Will Hornby, Merd there from Maud, I'm not sure how you say that, from Sweden, Watmer, Trevor and Dubray. So 5 riders there. And as you see, they're now catching Matt on this slope. And gosh, there's some, I hadn't remembered that there were quite like this. I hope I've picked the right. As I remember, it was flat, but this is going to really test their legs. Sorry about this, guys. Maybe this is why everybody stayed away tonight, because they saw what this course was like. So yeah, this is going to be quite an effort when they have to do this every time. But of course, for everything that goes up comes down, so they get a bit of a chance to recover. They have to put in these little digs, which, you know, in some like real track racing, you know, it is very up and down. You have to put in big efforts to catch a wheel or to make sure that you don't miss a break, miss a gap, and then you'll sit in the bunch and be able to relax for a while. So in that sense, it's replicating what you would really have in real life. So here we go with Mard here. Now he's getting a bit of a gap on the others there. Matt's fallen back into the bunch with Paul Watmer, Jimmy Trevor, also a few meters off the back. Dubray seems to have snapped, the elastic seems to snap from that bunch. Asensi, Ronkanen, Greasley, all out the back there. Cruz, well and truly out the back. He's only doing fairly light. He's doing sort of 1 watt per kilo. That's going to take him quite a while to get at that. So Mard here, our Swedish rider, has opened up quite a gap, 70 meters now, as we get onto the flat. So it's still a little bit of a drag up, but we're getting onto the flats as we get over here, and then they'll have a nice downhill to recover. So there we go, crossing again, the crazy crossings of Clapham Junction. One finishing. I didn't see him go through the finish line, but maybe the camera was just off as we got that, or maybe I just missed it. Ahmad there. Matt now has broken away from the bunch behind, and it's really getting broken up there. So there you get another great view of this incredible course that Steve has built, looping over and over and up and down. I mean, good luck knowing where the line would be. It doesn't look like it's going to be a sprint for the line anyway. Looks like we've got riders broken up. Those hills are going to break up the ride. So Mard now coming down. Bit of a steep gradient there, but it was just momentary. So he's used his momentum to come back over and again onward slope. So we're seeing the first person view here from our Swedish rider Mard as he comes down. So it's a little bit, you know, those are just short. Now we've got a down 10% downward. We'll build up a bit of speed there, getting up to 60 kilometers an hour as we come down those slopes, and hopefully be able to keep his momentum as we go into the other hills. So there he goes again. Thank heavens we have the rider list on the left, otherwise we'd never be able to work out who was where. So Mard now has a gap over Matt Hammond. Matt's gonna, Matt will keep it going. Matt's now got a 100-meter gap to third place, and we're not quite halfway through the event. We've got 4.5 kilometers done, just under 6.5 to go. Will Mard be able to keep that gap to Matt? Matt is a strong rider. It's hovering now at about 100 meters, so it's coming down very rapidly now, but I expect Mard has hit the slope, and so he will be going a lot slower, so the distance comes down. And that's, yeah, there we are. He's now back on a 12, 13, 14% slope. So this is quite a testing. They're really going to have to push some big power to go up these hills. I am actually thinking that I might have chosen the wrong magic road for this, because the one I remember didn't have, it was a much flatter course and it didn't have these very steep slopes. But sorry about that, guys, but hey, you know, it's the race. The race is what you make of it. You still got to do the power. You keep pedaling and eventually you get over the hill. So you can see some of the names floating in the distance there. You saw a Sensi. So this is the effect that we're getting as riders are crossing over each other. So there's Mard coming up that slope, Matt behind him. A bit like the view that you get if you're climbing up a mountainside that's got lots of switchbacks and you look back to see the riders behind you. And it always makes you think that they're a lot closer than they really are. So Matt there in second place. Behind them, Jimmy Trevor and Paul Watmer are still staying together by the looks of the distance there. So you can see, you know, 90, 95 meters up. There we go. The camera's going to switch to them. So yeah, Jimmy and Paul are staying together. So they're obviously very well matched. They're going to draft off each other where they can. Like you've got no choice. At 12%, you're not getting any draft. So Paul there putting in a decent effort, putting in a mid 300 watts, heart rate going up to 160, 12% gradient. So that's pretty tough. Jimmy there, a few meters behind, but not enough. I think that that elastic will pull back as they get over. He's putting in a consistent effort, going in a bit to the red there. And actually Hornby and another rider there, not far, Dubray, not far behind them. So we've got Hard out in front with a gap to Matt Hammond. We've got Trevor riding together, and we've got Dubray riding together. And then we've got Anna and Asensi, Anna Ronkanen and Asensi. So we've got sort of two leaders separately, and then two groups. No, actually three groups riding and staying close to each other. It's, yeah, interesting given the gradients here, because on those steep gradients, if you've got the power, there's no draft. You know, you won't get any benefit from sitting on somebody's wheel in those gradients. And as I said, when they go down the other side, you can, there you go, there's another great view. I love these camera views that Damien manages to get in ZMS. That's another thing that, because I'm on the rollers, I look at these views, but there you see the amazing effects of the loopy road around, Magic Road around Clapham Junction. No trains. It'd be even better if we could program some trains. There you go, riders crossing over each other, under, over. I think we had 5 of us in shot there, all crossing that. So we're on Matt now. Matt doing pretty consistent 4 or 5 watts per kilo as he crests that slope, and now he's going to start to come down the other side. And they have, I think, about to go here. So there we go, crossing over centrally again, and there you go, you're seeing that effect of the riders crossing over each other. So we're now with the Watmer and Trevor group. I guess we have Mard is the Teresa de Carrera. We have Matt Hammond, who is what the Spanish is for Suivant, Corregidor perhaps. Another group. Trevor yeah, they speak. I think had away from Anna and Asensi were together, and they look now to have split apart as well. So Anna there at 3, Asensi at about 80 meters behind Anna. So those next round of hills have had their effect on the people who were managing to stay together and split them up. So it's sort of, apart from Paul Watmer and Jimmy Trevor, it's pretty much every rider for themselves at this point. So Anna coming down the slope now. She's on a -2-3% gradient. She's still putting in 300 watts, but there you go, sensible, just easing off a bit, doing sort of 180, 200 watts, just to keep the legs turning over as she comes down the hill at close to 60 kilometers an hour. Back to Mard. I wonder if H is for Henrik. I'll take a guess at that. So he is now on another of these big slopes. He's up. Yes, this seems to be the main slope going up here. So it's 10, getting up to 15%. He's putting in a pretty big dig there, 4.5 watts per kilo. And yeah, this is the finish. So he now has 1 lap to go. So 2.7 kilometers. He'll be relieved to know he only has to do that climb once more. And if he can keep the gap, which he has to Matt, of over 300 meters now. So if it's unlikely that anybody can make up 300 meters in the space of 2.7 kilometers, Mard would have to blow out for that to happen. So Matt now, Mard now coming up to the top of this slope. He'll only have to do it once more. He's coming to, it's still a little bit of a drag, and there's a couple of bumps there, but he will be cresting that very shortly once he goes over these little ones. And these are, as long as he can maintain momentum going into these little hills, he'll just power up over those. They're not ones where you'd even need to really change gear. You just get out of the saddle, stay in the big ring, a few pedal strokes, and you're up over these little bumps. So he'll do that as we come up to this big turn, and I think after that it's mostly downhill for him until he gets to that final upward slope to the finish line. So Mard now going well into the green. Matt now is also on the down. He's going to the green, so the lap Greg Beasley. So Mard must also have lapped Greg. Matt is lapping him there. Paul Watmer now coming up to the finish line, so he's got 1 lap to go. He looks to be now pretty safe in 3rd place. Jimmy Trevor not far behind him. That is not an insurmountable gap. The fact that Paul has been able to get away on that upward on that climb does suggest that Paul's got the legs to stay away. William Hornby there, I think he is also at the finish line corner. Yes, it is. So William Hornby there, coming up to the finish line. Looks to be about 230, 240 meters behind Jimmy Trevor. And then we're going to go back to who is in 6th spot. She's now on the nastiest part of that climb at 12+%. So she's slowing right down, going to the red there. But she will get over that for the second last time and come up to the finish line. And there again, you see riders going up, over, around, across all different directions. Anna now coming off the little cobbled section there, coming up to the line. So Mard now has only 6 left, so that went quickly. I guess a lot of that is downhill, so he's coming back now to that section. So 500 meters long, 400 meters, 500 meters, pretty hard climbing, going up to very hard climbing, 15-16%. That is very hard. Anybody who's ever tried to do that for life will know just how difficult that is. Sometimes, you know, when you're out on a ride and you get surprised by a gradient like that, it can be quite a shock to the system. So it's back now to 5%. I think there's another little stretch that gets up to 11 and 12% when he gets around this corner. That will be it for him, and he looks to be comfortable in 1st place. So Matt now coming down. I think he's about that steep finishing slope. Mard now going to just stay in the yellow. He doesn't need to put it into the red. He just needs to keep a decent power, not completely fall away, but keep a decent power, and he will certainly cross the line in 1st place. Matt now in 2nd place, into that steep part of the climb, but his reward will be is he gets to this and goes around the corner, he will see the finished scaffolding there, see it around the corner there. He's only got 6 meters to go. So Mard now takes the win in the scratch race, a hard-fought scratch. We made the scratch for 17 minutes. So that was a tough one. To be perfectly honest, wasn't expecting all that climbing, and probably nor were the riders. So I will field complaints about that afterwards and offer full refunds to anyone who feels dissatisfied. His slope. He's coming up now to the final little bit where he'll do 11-12% in the last couple of 100 meters. He'll get up to that top corner and cross the line, second place. Given the, I haven't actually added them all up, but I'm sure that will put Matt in first place for the Omnium overall, partly because everybody has done. We had Rasmus come in for one race. We had our Swedish friend here, Mard, come in for one race. Has done all 4, as has Paul, and as has Anna, William, and it looks like Greg, I think maybe has dropped out. He's had enough. So you have to do all 4 of them to be scored in the Omnium. If you haven't done all 4, you don't get a finishing score. Obviously you get the score in that race. Excuse me. And the races are individually ranked on RGT TV. So Matt crossing the line in second place. Well done, Matt. Paul, not far behind him there. Caught up a lot of ground in that last little section. Yeah, the races are ranked on RGTDB, so that if you're not familiar with the RGTDB's ranking system, it promotes you from sort of bronze, silver, and gold, and I think even platinum. It promotes you up and in the bands based on not points per event, but who you beat. So if, for example, Matt was a gold rider and Paul, or say the other way around, let's say Jimmy Trevor here was a gold rider and Paul was a silver rider, then Paul would get points for a rider who was higher ranked than him. It's a bit similar, if any of you know, to so it uses sort of comparative scores. So we saw Paul cross the line, we saw Jimmy behind Paul. Now we're seeing William Hornby come up 5th place. He's coming up to this final last bit. Yeah, comment there from Lynette Rasmussen. That's a tough one. Sure is, Lynette. It's, yeah, like I said, I wasn't, honestly, I'm sorry about it. I wasn't expecting it to be that tough. I think I've got a couple of Clapham Junction Magic Roads in my saved in my Magic Roads, and one of them is fairly flat, and obviously I didn't choose that one, so I'm going to have to go back and make sure that I well, I mean, you know, I won't say I won't use this again, but if I do, I'll just have to warn everybody. And I mean, I'm glad I didn't program it first, because the timing would have, if I usually count on the first scratch race being about 12 or 13 minutes, and that would have made it difficult. So Anna there, wow, she's got Dubray on her heels. I don't think he's close enough to catch her, although it is only 35 meters. You can make up that sort of distance very, very quickly on a climb. But I think if I recognize the course, that Anna is in that final section, not the first section. She's only got 56 minutes. Yes, she has only got 50 minutes to go. So good effort by Dubray there to come up close to Anna, but Anna's going to cross the line in 6th, and Dubray will cross the line in 7th place. I seem to have been chucked out on my, so I can't even chat to them and apologise for putting them through that. So I can't get in on the screen and give them a message to say sorry about that. But anyway, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That certainly applies in cycle racing. So the guys have had a tough test, guys and girl, have had a tough test. Henrik, there I was right, Henrik Mard in first place. Matt Hammond in second, Paul Watton third, Jimmy Trevor fourth, William Hornby in fifth, Anna in sixth place, Frederick Dubray in seventh place, and we're going to have O Asensi. I'm wondering what the O stands for, but we'll in a second. In eighth place to scratch race. It was a really tough race. Yeah, tough, especially after 4 races for those who did them all. It was a pretty tough one, and they did very well to complete that. Waiting for these final placing to come up there for in 8th place. Sensi. That will confirm all the scores, and then I will go and do a check. I need to adjust the tempo. That's the difference. That's why I can't see the immediate scores there, because actually no, the tempo will be worked because it finished in pretty much the order that and I don't actually need to anything there, because we'll have finished in the order that they actually did the race. So there we go, Oscar Asensi in 8th place there. So if you bear with me for 1 minute, I will check these results. I will do a quick calculation in the, there's Oscar. I've imported all the results. I can calculate thanks to the wonderful Dave Swart and his RGTDB system, and then I can go to the public page and I can tell you exactly who has won the Omnium. And as I thought, it's Matt Hammond with 7 points. He had first. He had second and 3 thirds. Then we've got Anna Ronken in 13 points. She had third, fifth, and sixth. Well done, Anna. The others, so not everybody did them all. For some reason, I'm not sure why. William Hornby didn't do the race, the TT Devil. So he had 5, 4, and 4, 13. So if he had finished 5th or better in third, he would have been in 3rd place. Greg Greasley didn't. He dropped out of the final. He had 18, so this joined us for 2, so he also doesn't get a score there. And Jimmy Trevor was there for 2 of our events. So those are our runners and riders for the Omnium. So Matt comes away with the win, and that will see us out for tonight. So yeah, strange run. I don't have as many riders tonight. I must have a look if there's something else on that has kept people away. But hopefully those who did it enjoying us there with a final view of the amazing and very difficult, as we now know. So reminder there that lots coming up. Tour de Suisse coming up in November, and the Echelon Race League Echelon Series also coming up in November. And obviously you can catch all that on ZMS Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, various other social media. There we go, Facebook. Facebook is probably the one that is used most. Echelon Racing League starts November 13th. So lots of things coming up, lots of other great events happening on RGT, as well as the ones that are being streamed. Damon can't stream everything, although he seems to try. And lots of other great things coming up in RGT. We're really excited as we head into the cooler weather for all the events and all the races that are on RGT. So thanks for joining us. Hope to see you again, either on a ZMS live stream or in TNT or one of the other RGT races. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you have a great week, and we shall see you again soon. Thanks very much.